Without doubt, one of the biggest events on the Australian sporting calendar in terms of result for 2017, if not the world, to be honest. It was a massive upset at the time. Manny Pacquiao going down to our own ex-school teacher, Jeff Horn.
Don't get sick of watching it either.
Now the world champion, and he gets to do it all again tonight. We cannot wait. Getting closer and closer to the opening bell in Brisbane. And to talk about the Battle of Brisbane #2 and what lies ahead for Jeff Horn, we're joined by our boxing journos, Paul Upham and Cody Kay. Paul, great to have your company. And Cody, as always, you guys, you can just tell you're itching to see how this rolls out tonight. Paul, we might start with you because that is the big question. Can Jeff Horn back up those amazing heroics? Yes, he's against a man who really he should beat, particularly given he's got the world belt. But what's your thoughts leading into the one? He's had to waste quite a deal to make the weight.
Well, you hit the key point. It's expectation, isn't it? Everyone expects him to win easy now. And, you know, this is a world title fight. And Corcoran hasn't come here to lose. It's going to be a fight. My contacts in the UK have told me he's a brutal fighter. He'll do anything in the ring. He even insinuated last week he was going to bite in retaliation for a headbutt. Look, I think there's a lot of pressure on Jeff, and I'm got a question mark about the weight. He had to lose 4 or 5 kilos to get under. That's a question mark. And also the commitments. He's had so many media opportunities. I've seen him everywhere the last couple of months. How much has that affected his training and what we're going to see tonight?
He does seem quite relaxed, though, when he's been doing the rounds and doing all the media opportunities. I guess Gary looks so fit. And you do have to wonder, Cody, what kind of effect is the losing all that weight in 24 hours for Jeff Horn? How is that going to affect his preparation, in particular today in the lead-up to tonight?
Well, I guess we won't really know until fight night. We're not going to know, as we said earlier today, we're not going to know until those later rounds. No doubt about it, it's a really difficult thing to lose that kind of weight, particularly the way he lost it. It's brutal to drop 4 or 5 kilos over a 24-hour period, to starve yourself, to sit in a hot bath, to sweat it all out. I'm sure you guys know yourself, when you go for a run, you haven't drunk enough, you haven't eaten enough, you get fatigued, you get dehydrated, and you suffer for a day or two. So they're going to the absolute reserves and they're pushing their bodies to places that they really shouldn't be going. And it's going to be mind over matter for Jeff. If he does get dragged to deep water and they do go into later rounds, it'll be really, really tough for him. But I do think at this stage of his career, he's young enough and fit enough and strong enough to do it. I also don't think that Gary Corcoran's going to take him to those dark places. I think Jeff's going to do it without having to go there. So if he is fit enough and he's not too wasted, I think he should be okay.
Well, you're talking between 6-7 rounds.
Yeah, and we'll give myself a bit of leeway and say 8. But I think somewhere between 6 and 8, yeah.
Paul, I don't think anyone likes to hear about a fighter, or particularly their connection, starting to talk about the next fight. And we have heard a little bit about what lay beyond this first title defence, should he get it done. Are they looking just a bit too far ahead? Are they focused on what's in front of them at the moment? And as you said, it's a rock-hard, flint-hard, if you like, Englishman who's ready to go the distance.
Look, is it coming from Jeff Horn, though? It's the people around Horn. It's Bob Arum's the promoter. It's in Arum's best interest to plan these things out. So the way he sees it, he sees Jeff Horn winning this fight, and then he's going to fight Terence Crawford in April. Then the winner of Crawford and Horns is going to fight Manny Pacquiao in August. That's how Bob Arum operates. But I don't think Jeff Horn's like that. I think he's very level-headed. I like his attitude. He doesn't get overawed. He doesn't take things too far ahead. And I think he's just focused on the fight. He's got so many things pressure on him. His wife's ready to have a baby at ringside, from what we hear. You know, as I said, the expectation. So I think Jeff's head and how way he's carried himself so far will get him the win. And if he fights like he did against Pacquiao, he wins this fight easy. I'm with Cody. My only question is the weight issues, and is the training being compromised from all the publicity requirements?
What kind of fight are you expecting? Because there's been accusations that Jeff is a dirty fighter. I mean, what are you expecting?
It's going to be a fight. Corcoran doesn't come here to lose. As I said, he's going to give everything he possibly can, and my contacts in the UK have told me, you know, he's borderline breaking the rules all the time. We've got a good referee in there, Benji Estevez, world-class referee, did some of Costa Zoo's big fights in America, so I'm not concerned about that. I just think they're both very aggressive. There's a lot of similarities there. They like to come forward. They like to throw punches. I think it's going to be a really good fight. And if you want to see a good fight, get on Main Event tonight and watch this, because it's going to be a fight in every sense of the word.
Certainly been some fun and games in the lead up to this one, Cage. You would have had a wry smile, being both a journo and obviously a lover of boxing, and knowing what happens to garner some headlines. But some of the headwear of the last day or so has been interesting to say the least.
Well, I was interesting yesterday, Glenn Rushing with the mouth guard and the well, not the mouth guard, the fake teeth and the earmuffs. Look, they like a bit of fun, they're Queenslanders, so they're a bit weird, so we'll give them that. But the one thing I will say is Jeff Horn, the ability to have a laugh, even after being massively dehydrated, when yesterday at the weigh-in, he said, oh, there's always a buzz around the hornet. Little things like that. I just think it shows that Jeff Horn's in a really, really good place coming into this fight. And like Paul, you mentioned, there are concerns over whether or not he can deal with all the awards and all the stuff outside of the ring that he's had to deal with that he's never ever had to cope with before. But I think it's all just gamesmanship and it's fighting and it goes with it. And it wouldn't be a fight, it wouldn't be a world title fight without both camps sniping at each other and drumming it up a little bit. That's just as exciting a lot of the times as what happens in the ring. And the other thing is that they're both pretty respectful guys, so it's not really in their nature to go and talk a big game. So I think they understand they're both professionals, that doing all that sort of stuff probably helps a little bit.
If Horn wins tonight, what kind of impact is that going to have on his life? Because the Pacquiao win was, you know, incredible. I mean, he announced himself on the world stage, but what kind of impact is this, if he wins tonight, touch wood, hopefully he does, what kind of impact is that going to have on his life?
I think it just keeps him going in the direction that he... I mean, it means that everything that he did so well against Manny Pacquiao stays and he keeps going in the direction that he wants to head. Because there are some really, really big fights out there for him, big money fights. I think personally, Paul, I don't know where you sit on this, that the welterweight division, aside from the heavyweight, is probably the most exciting in the world right now.
It is. It's the #1 division in boxing. And you're right, Cody. If he wins tonight, it confirms what he did. If he loses tonight, he just becomes a footnote in history, and it's very hard to get back there.
Yeah, it poses as the banana skin, really, isn't it? It's nothing like getting there, it's staying there, but also improving after the heady highs. I mean, nothing's going to beat that 50,000 plus stadium and the feeling you would have got. It's
not like AFL and rugby league where you can lose a game during the year and still be world champion at the end. You have to be perfect all the time in boxing to stay on top, otherwise you fall back down in the pack. And this fight is as important as any other out there for him right now because it's the fight.
You said you've been talking to a lot of contacts in the UK. Exactly what have they told you about this bloke? Because he is obviously a relative unknown here, and what will he bring?
Look, he's a good fighter. He's not a great fighter. If Jeff Horn's at his best, like Pacquiao, he wins the fight comfortably. I don't have an issue with that. It's those other things. But he will do anything he possibly can because he's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Boxing has seen over the years so many people come from nowhere to get this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change their life. He wants to be world champion. And sometimes you get a fight like this, it's who wants it more on the night? Does Horn done the training? Does he want it? Or does Corcoran want to become world champion? It's a force of will sometime on the night.
Guys, what has Gary's road to this fight been like?
Pretty quiet, to be honest. I mean, he's had... When you look at his resume, it's not very impressive. The loss he had to Liam Williams was a willing fight. It was a tough fight, but he got hit by a guy that's no world beater by any means. He then came back and he had a couple of fights against guys. His last fight was a guy that was 12-0 that had been fighting fighters with terrible losing records, and he only just got it done via split decision. Gary Corcoran finds himself in this position because he was rated number 10 with the WBO, and Jeff had to make a defence against somebody rated inside the top 10 with the WBO. So if Gary was sitting at number 9, we're not talking about him here today. He was sitting at number 10, so he gets that shot. He's a willing fighter, and so he makes for an exciting fight. But also, Duke Arvents, who look after Jeff, are very, very smart, and they've done a great job with matching him with opponents that are visually exciting, but are probably winnable in some aspects. And really, this was Jeff's chance to not have an easy fight, but to be able to enjoy the advantages of being a world champion, earn a little bit of money, have a winnable defence, and then go on and really test himself. So Gary comes... Yeah, he wants to win, but I think he comes as an opponent and a guy that maybe no one really outside of Gary Corcoran's camp expects to win this fight tonight.
Yeah, we got Codes' prediction there, gave himself a little bit of wiggle room to the 8th round. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, look, I think Horn wins the fight, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer. Some people got him winning in 1 or 2 rounds. I think it may go the distance.
Is that good enough, though, for the world champ, first title defence, for someone who wants to make a statement?
As long as he wins. As long as he wins, he can move on to bigger fights because Bob Upham has got a commodity here and he's going to make the most of it. He wants to put him in against Terence Crawford and then the winner against Pacquiao. And we've got to remember, they thought this was going to be the Pacquiao rematch. Gary's right, Corcoran's here for a reason. It's a winnable fight. But, to me, a draw or a win, a draw is going to call for a rematch. But I think he wins the fight, but it's a question mark on how good he does. And I don't think that affects the outcome.
You gave us the stepping stones there. Should he follow the right path, with Pacquiao again being the big carrot at the end of it. Do you envisage that being on the Brisbane scale? Would it be back here? Have you got any sort of insight as to what Bob's thinking as to where that fight could be and what it could be like?
They'll be in America. Aram's already said that. It'll be Terence Crawford will be in America. He's considered to be in the top 2 or 3 pound for pound. He's undefeated, and that'll be a tough fight for Jeff. And Pacquiao's told Aram he doesn't want to fight in Brisbane. Bob Aram said that yesterday press conference. He's not coming back. He thinks he got robbed last time, and he's not coming back to Australia, regardless of what the contract says. Pacquiao's the king. He's the king of the money. So if he wants to fight Jeff Horn in America, in Las Vegas, and Aram said that, it'll happen in Las Vegas.
Do you think Jeff Horn has to beat Pacquiao again in order for some critics across the globe to take him seriously?
If they fight again, yes. But I think there's circumstances that Pacquiao may not fight. He's talking about fighting other people than Jeff Horn because he doesn't want to come to Australia. If Jeff Horn's career goes on, he doesn't fight Pacquiao again, but he has some other good, credible wins, I don't think it affects him. But if they fight again, if he doesn't win, people will say, well, Pacquiao got robbed in Brisbane. Pacquiao was right. He got jobbed on the scorecards. I don't believe that. I think Horn won the fight. But if he loses tonight, people are going to say, well, he wasn't that good at all. So Horn's got to win tonight, sorry.
So do you think, Codes, if Horn wins tonight, critics will be silenced, or they'll still be a bit sceptical, thinking, well, it was only Gary Corcoran, go fight Manny Pacquiao again?
Interesting question, because it depends largely how he wins. I mean, if he struggles against Gary Corcoran, yeah, the knives will be out and the knockers will be out for sure. If he goes out there and he looks fantastic and he looks a class above, the knockers will sit there quietly and go, oh, okay, maybe there's a bit of something to him. But really, the real test for Jeff's going to come after making the defence of his belt, which he has to do, if he's going to be held in elite company, and then to see how he goes against either a Keith Thurman, an Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Bud Crawford. Which if I'm Glenn Rushton, I don't let Jeff anywhere near Terence Crawford, who's the guy they want him to fight. He was the unified junior welterweight champion, and he's a very, very, very handy fighter. And it's not one that, if I was Jeff, I'd want to take. And to be honest, I don't think Jeff will stay at welterweight for a really long time anyway. He probably moves up a division at some point. So if he wanted to get around it, he can always go up a division.
Look, just briefly, and it's more broadly in the world of boxing, but the other big news of the day in the game of the sweet science was that of Tyson Fury. Colourful doesn't quite do this bloke justice. Now, Cody absolutely hands down card carrying, loves this guy, and I can understand why, because he offers so much in terms of hilarity as well as skill. What was your reaction, and maybe more broadly the reaction of world boxing? Good, bad or indifferent that Tyson Fury is back and possibly on track to fight Anthony Joshua if he does show he's got the old form?
Look, it's good for Tyson because as a person, because he needed that. He was going for some dark places with some substance abuse issues. So it's good for them. It's good for the heavyweight division. It's great for Anthony Joshua because that's a super fight in the UK that the world is watching. And look, I like Tyson Fury. He brings some colour and excitement and he attracts the attention of the media. So that's got to be good for boxing. But most importantly, it's great for Tyson.
Yeah.
Codes, you're all for it?
Yeah, I've never... I don't actually really rate him as he's not the most exciting fighter. So funnily enough, I kind of love him for everything that he brings in the press conferences and outside of the ring, that he can't sing and he thinks he can. I don't know if you've ever seen his Instagram or his Twitter, but they are just it's worth the price of admission alone just to go and check out his social media. But yeah, I think he's great for boxing. I'd love to see him come back and unify the division and prove everybody wrong, because there's nothing else like him in sport. I love him. I love a fat bloke that does well.
He doesn't.
And he's proud of his rig, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
He'll take his top off.
He's proud of the rig. He's got no problems with the rig at all.
Guys, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the fight tonight, and we'll see who's right tomorrow. You're saying inside 8 rounds?
Inside 8 rounds, yeah.
Going the distance. Horn to win.
Going the distance.
Right. Well, that means it's going to be money well spent definitely tonight. If you choose to watch it on Main Event, of course you do. The Hornet and the Hellraiser, live and exclusive Main Event. Coverage from 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time. To order it, very simple. Simply call 131 999. Visit mainevent.com.au. It's channel 521 on Foxtel. Get in early to avoid any disappointment.